Shaq and Draymond going at it verbally. Draymond, about a week and a half ago, said the Warriors could they would abuse Shaq and Kobe because they just make a mockery of Shaq in the pick and roll. And Shaq, of course, answers back. Here's Draymond first.
When you start talking Shaq and Kobe, like, God, R.I.P. Kobe, Shaq, my favorite player growing up as a kid, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I had Orlando Magic night lights and onesie pajamas. And like, Shaq always been one of my favorite players. But, like, and watching, I've always watched the game as a student of the game. Like, me and Steph Curry would have destroyed Shaq in a pick and roll. Like, destroyed. Shaq would have murdered me on the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are two completely different games we talking about. You know what I'm saying? And so we start to compare teams and, like, are we better than them? In our era of basketball, we would have destroyed them. You know what I'm saying? But in Shaq and Kobe era, where they're dumping the ball down to Shaq, we probably would have got crushed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
every possession.
That's just the reality.
And here's Shaq's response, Rob.
Okay, so this era, Draymond wouldn't even been in the game for them to be in the pick and roll because he would have got 3 quick fouls. Now, let's take it back to our era. We wouldn't even be playing them because they'd be the 6th or 7th seed. You had us, you got San Antonio, Sacramento, you had KG, you had Utah, you had Portland. They wouldn't even been a factor. So, pick and roll is okay, but we would have trapped Stephen, forced him to shoot, or if Steph would have got away, I would have told D-Fish, you know what, Steph's getting too hot, let him drive to the basket, and I would have touched his up 2 or 3 times. He wouldn't have came back in there. So, listen, Draymond, he does have G14 classification, but stop it, Mr. Draymond. You're too little, way too little. Cut it out.
All right, Rob, that was entertaining, both of them. I think that was Craig Melvin doing the interview, too.
I know. What was it? Sounded like him.
Sounded like him, right, with the laugh. Look, Kerry Kittles, who's we had on yesterday, and turns out, he's been a great guest. He's really passionate, honest. But we talked earlier this season, he and I talked, and he was like, he just called me out of the blue one day. He was like, the days of comparing players are over. Like, their era to this era. He's like, this is an entirely different game now. Like, you can't compare because it's so different. And there's some truth to that. Obviously, we're going to continue to compare players and teams, but the games are entirely different, Rob. But that said, I still think, even in this era, Shaq and Kobe, I think they'd give the Warriors some major problems. To say that they would kill Shaq in the pick and roll, Shaq and Kobe. First of all, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not putting Shaq on Draymond. I'm putting him on whoever the worst. And Draymond, look, here's the thing about Draymond. Draymond's not a great shooter. He can hit the three.
I leave him wide open the whole time.
Right. That's what I think they do, because they can try to force Shaq to be in there on Draymond. But like you said, you running a pick and roll, or pick and pop really is what it would have to be. Then go ahead. Let Draymond shoot 10 threes a game and see how that works out for you. Actually, that's what we want, because that means fewer shots for Steph and Klay. So I think Draymond was a little simplistic in his analysis, Rob.
Yes. And I don't prescribe to the idea that you can't compare errors and look at it and take things into consideration. I think you can. It's still basketball. It's still about scoring the basketball and being able to get stops. It just is. And when you look at the talent of Shaq and Kobe, and whatever game you're playing, Chris, they would adjust and be able to play and win. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they wouldn't fit in, or they couldn't play this style, or Michael Jordan wouldn't be able to make threes. None of that I believe at all. I just don't. And I would wonder, the other way around, would Steph, who's already had his injury issues and whatnot, get knocked around a little bit, how tough would he be to be able to play back in the 90s or whatever, late 80s, early 90s, and that style of basketball? Doesn't mean I don't think he couldn't make any shots or get any shots up or be a good shooter or anything during that time as well. But I don't buy what Draymond's selling.
Yeah, and I just think, too, and remember, those Golden State teams, Rob, they've always had a big. They've had JaVale McGee. They've had Andrew Bogut. In fact, when they lost to the Cavs in 16, remember Bogut had some injury issues. That was a part of it too, you know? And so they've always had kind of a traditional big, if you will. And again, Shaq would murder him. And they're able to get away with the small ball in this era because there are very few big men who will make you pay on the block, right? Dwight Howard's not making you pay on the block. You know, who's making you play? Karl Anthony Towns is really good, but he shoots a lot of threes. And even the guys that will make you pay on the block. Embiid is facing up on the basket. He's facing up on the perimeter a lot. He's at the three. Right. He's shooting. Even the ones that will make you pay on the block, they're not going to make you pay like Shaq because Shaq would put 50 or 60 on you. And who's doing that today? You put Draymond Green on Shaq. Shaq, he's right. Draymond's going to be fouled out of that game pretty quickly. And Shaq would just continue to punish him. No way.
Right. He couldn't guard him.
Now, Dennis Rodman guarded Shaq a lot and did a good job, but he's stronger than Draymond. You know, and Draymond's a great defender, but Rodman was a stronger, more physical defender.
And Ben Wallace did a good job, too, in 2004. Yep. There was a block in that.
Stronger,
do you remember that?
Physical.
A stronger guy, right. Do you remember the block he had on Shaq, which is still one? If you ever get a chance to take a look at that, Ben Wallace, you know, blocked Shaq shot, which is incredible when you think about it, because Ben Wallace isn't that tall. You know what I mean?
About
compared
6'7".
to Shaq. You know, right. But Ben Wallace was a unique player. And again, you're talking about very, very unique, right? Ben Wallace, Dennis Rodman, those are specialty and unique players, not just your standard forwards, Chris, who could defend a guy like Shaq.
No question. And I'm with you. I mean, like I said, we're going to compare eras. They are very different, though. You know, with the game, you know, with the 3-point heavy. But you remember this, Rob, part of the adjustment, too, in the game has been or was the demise of the offensive-minded, skilled post player that was a big man. Because I remember specifically doing interviews with Shaq and at All-Star games, you know, it was in the group, in the scrum and all that, where we would talk to Shaq about, you know, where are the big men, you know? Like, and he used to say he's the last of a dying breed.
The last of the Mohicans, right?
Yeah, I mean, even, it's not just because of the Warriors. Even when Shaq was playing and beasting, there were very few after the Ewings and the Robinsons, and, you know, Duncan was still around, but he likes to consider himself a power forward, you know, and Alonzo Mourning and you know, Hakeem Olajuwon, Moses Malone. After those guys went away, it was just kind of Shaq, you know, and that, so those players disappeared, and that's also kind of led to this new style of play as well. But it is an interesting discussion, and we'll get more into it a little bit later. But let's see what the callers think. If Shaq's Lakers and Draymond's Warriors played each other in the same era, remember, the Shaq-Kobe Lakers, who would win? We'll continue the conversation with you next. It's the ICouple.
All right. Let's kick it off with Tony in Seattle. You're on the ICouple, Fox Sports Radio.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great, man. How are
What's
you?
up, Tony?
Hey, surviving. I think no matter what the era, Shaq would have destroyed them. I for one, I get Steph. I call him playoff Steph. There's a difference between regular season Steph and playoff Steph. I'm just not a fan. I just think that too many times when you expect that AI performance, that Isaiah Thomas, carry your team, will us to a win in the playoffs against good teams. I'm not talking against Portland and teams like that. He just never showed up. And Draymond Green, he keeps picking these battles with these legends. That dude, you're the fifth wheel. I'm not saying he's not a good player,
Right.
but
Fourth
you
wheel.
are
Fourth
you
wheel.
are, yeah, totally the fourth wheel. He's not a Barkley. He's not a driver. He is a complete passenger.
And I'm not saying that you
Well, he
can't be
does play an
confident or
important
whatever,
role.
but he's way over his skis, like just the way he's going at people. He really is. I think Draymond's gotten. It's nothing wrong, Chris. I'm not saying he should change who he is or whatever, but just tone it down.
Because it's good for us.
But it's just every day now. Like after a while, people tune you out. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Seriously, you don't want to be that guy. That's all
true.
I'm saying. After a while.
And let me say this to Tony. Steph averages 26.5 points for his career in the playoffs. That's 112 games. So I don't know this.
Just no big shots.
Steph disappears. What was
Tony,
the big
you're
shot
right on the
Isaiah
money.
Thomas hit?
Tony, you're right on the money. You're right on the money,
seriously,
Tony.
I can name half of the top 12
Chris,
players
he's
ever
0 for 8. He's 0 for 8 with shots with less than 10 seconds to go. That
what
could
was
either put their
Isaiah's
team
big
ahead.
shot in the finals?
I'm telling you about Steph's numbers.
Can you give me Isaiah's?
No, I don't.
If we
I don't
hold him
need
to the
his.
same standard as everybody
I
else.
know what Steph's
Dr.
is because
J's.
I know what Steph's is because
they make such a big
because they make a big deal about him and the numbers don't bear it out.
Really?
Let's go to
26.5
Sean.
points, 3 rings. Okay.
Sean, 1 ring. Sean, let's in Sacramento. You're on the ICouple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Sean?
My uncle's from another mother, man. How y'all doing? Good to have you back, Chris.
Thank you, brother. It's good
What's
to be
happening?
back.
So, man, first of all, y'all need to put some respect on Draymond's name, man. Y'all talking about y'all just gonna let him shoot. Y'all forget he hit 7 threes in that terrible Game 7 when they ended up giving up a 3-1 lead against the Cavaliers. But he could hit that outside shot.
Not
and I'm just
consistent.
gonna put it like
he can
this,
get hot
man.
every blue moon.
I'm just going to put it like this. You remember how much trouble the Lakers had against that Sacramento team before Tim Donaghy came and stole the series? They play almost a very similar style to what these Golden State Warriors play, except they don't got a halfway decent shooter in white chocolate Jason Williams or Mike Bibby. They got an A1 shooter in Steph Curry and half the team. So I don't know, man. It's closer than people think. And when you got somebody like Draymond who can hit that outside shot and is way more athletic than any other big man Shaq had to play, they might have to run Shaq off the court because the game is so much faster.
But Sean, no way they running Shaq. They also had Chris Webber.
Right, and your argument doesn't hold up because the Kings never beat them. So if the Kings beat them, then maybe you could take a look and then compare and say, see, you were able to beat them. Having trouble and beating somebody, Chris, are two different things.
Right, and Draymond's a career 32% shooter from 3. So before you make him Klay Thompson, check the stats.
Exactly.
Joseph,
I know, Sean. What was that? What are you doing?
What's up with that?
He's out back grilling some hot dogs. He let the mustard get to him. Joseph in Virginia, you're on the ICouple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Joseph?
Fellas, I gotta say, I gotta agree with Shaq. And if you look at the best team that they had, which was that 2001 team, they played all of the teams, the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, they played the Kings, and he just talked about the Kings, but they had Jason Williams, they had Peja Stojakovic, they had Lottie, they had Chris Webber,
and they didn't win.
And they didn't win. They got swept.
Yep.
And the Lakers dominated that entire playoffs, and I think that was the best team. And we can't forget, if you want to match up, we can't forget they had a stacked roster. They had Brian Shaw. They had point guards that they can throw at them, Derek Fisher. They would have had some people that could hold them. My question is, what were they going to do for Kobe and Shaq and Phil? I think that was a big X factor as well.
And remember, Rob,
Thanks,
the first year they won the championship, they had Glenn Rice, who was a tremendous shooter. Now it's interesting because we didn't call that a super team, but you remember how great Glenn Rice was.
Yep.
And the 3 of them coming together with Kobe and Shaq, that was a big 3. And Rice wasn't happy, so they won the ring, and then he still demanded his way out of there.
Because he was that kind of a player, and he doesn't want to be a third wheel or in other players' shadows. I don't blame him, Chris. I mean, you win the championship, good. I can go move on. He's a guy who wants to be in the mix. Let's go real quick to.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Quickly.
We have time or no?
Yeah,
okay.
Quickly.
Mark in Sacramento, you're on the ICouple Fox Sports Radio. We got a little bit of time. What's up?
What's going on, gentlemen? Real quick.
Yes.
Draymond just looking for some publicity because I can tell you 2 things would have happened. The first time Shaq would have turned and put that big elbow in his face, Draymond would have ran looking for his mama. Number one, and number two, if Steph got hot, Kobe Jordan would have went and got him. Kobe Jordan would have went and got him. He would have locked him up. He's not going to let him get going. And I mean Kobe Bryant because he's the closest thing to Michael Jordan we've seen. Kobe would have got him and took that challenge.
I think they would have had Kobe on Clay because he's legit, obviously. And Derek Fisher's a pretty good defender. Was not the quickest, but tough. He'd have got physical with Steph.
I'm just saying, if he had gotten hot and getting in one of those grooves, Kobe would have said, "No, I'm going to get him.
I'm over there, right?"
Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right, good call.
Appreciate it.
Our man Mark. All right.
Let's go to Robert in Georgia. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio.
Hey, guys, what's going on, man?
How you doing, bud?
Hey, man, one thing I want to say, man, I listen to a lot of talk shows. You guys have the greatest topics that anybody has, man.
Thank you,
brother.
Barbershop topics, man. That's what everybody want to hear.
That's right.
But look, man, I'm 48, and I was in the Jordan area and all those, but I feel like these new guys are being disrespected, man. I just heard this topic, and nobody mentioned KD. So if you got KD, and I don't even like Golden State, I'm pro LeBron, but you got KD, Steph, and Clay on those wings. Yeah, Shaq can score 50 points, but he can't shoot free throws.
But Draymond didn't mention KD. He said Steph and him would beat Kobe and Shaq. That's the conversation. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Draymond was I assume he was talking about their, last two championship teams, but considering that he and KD have had their issues recently, maybe he was talking about that first go round without KD.
But it wasn't like...
No, he did mention, right, he didn't say, and then KD would be killing him. You got to worry about us in the pick and roll and KD?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was picking because when you look at the Shaq and Kobe team, you say Shaq and Kobe.
Right.
So he was making it... He didn't even say Clay. It was him and Steph. Do you see what I'm... That's why. The KD... Obviously, if KD's involved, we're talking about a different thing.